Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We're transforming today's UPSC news into a cinematic, syllabus-aligned blueprint, starting with a world that is very much on edge right now. If you're tracking the fast-moving currents of global geopolitics and domestic policy, you know that keeping the facts straight and actually understanding their ripple effects is absolutely crucial for your prep. So today, we're bringing all those complex dynamics into sharp focus. To keep your learning super efficient, here's our agenda. First, global tensions and diplomacy. Second, economy and energy security. Third, Indian polity and governance. Fourth, science and the environment. And finally, we'll look at society and education data. All right, Section 1, Global Tensions and Diplomacy. Let's dive right into international relations, where the headlines are currently dominated by a really dangerous escalation in the Middle East. Okay, so the US-Iran ceasefire, it's officially, quote, over. And those were the exact words from US President Donald Trump at a NATO summit in Turkey. Following a series of tit-for-tat strikes, Iran claims it targeted 85 US military assets in the Persian Gulf. This was a direct response to US airstrikes that resulted in 8 Iranian military casualties. At the core of this severe escalation is the destabilization of the crucial Strait of Hormuz, with both nations essentially declaring their previous memorandums of understanding completely ineffective. It's a volatile situation for sure. Meanwhile, shifting gears but keeping it firmly in your IR notes, we've got some major developments regarding transnational crime and diplomacy. The U.S. Department of Justice has formally indicted jailed gangster Lawrence Bishnoi and his associate Goldie Brar. They are accused of ordering the June 2023 assassination of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who is a designated terrorist in India, outside a Gurdwara in Surrey, British Columbia. This really highlights the ongoing parallel investigations into South Asian organized crime networks by both U.S. and Canadian authorities. Now, in stark contrast to those hard power conflicts, we see a brilliant illustration of soft power diplomacy here. PM Modi, alongside Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto, inaugurating a joint conservation project at Indonesia's UNESCO-listed Prambanan Temple. It's just a fascinating example of leveraging centuries-old civilizational bonds and shared heritage to foster modern international partnerships. Moving on to Section 2, Economy and Energy Security. Let's see how that global chaos feeds directly into our economy pillar. Because if you're studying India's macroeconomic stability, you know global instability usually translates into domestic anxiety. And sure enough, the renewed US-Iran clashes immediately sent shockwaves through the markets. As geopolitical concerns lifted the risk premium, the Nifty and Sensex both crashed by over 2%. The rupee tanked to 95.48 against the US dollar, and Brent crude spiked by 7.4% in just 2 sessions, trading at over $77 a barrel. For a country that imports almost 90% of its crude oil, numbers like this instantly revive memories of the 1973 oil shock and the 1991 balance of payments crisis. But here's the crucial point. How has India adapted? Well, India has quietly been building an insurance policy against these exact kinds of geopolitical shocks. A massive 40% of India's oil imports now come from Russia as of May 2026. That is the highest in nearly 2 years. By actively diversifying our supplier base, which now also includes bringing in oil from the US, UAE, Iran, and Venezuela, India is actively buffering itself against the ongoing West Asian crisis. And looking at long-term energy security, India is making massive structural strides. We've added 52.5 million tons per annum of LNG regasification capacity across 8 terminals. In doing so, India has actually overtaken Spain to become the world's 4th largest market for regasification capacity. This is a deliberate push by the government to enhance the share of liquefied natural gas in our overall energy mix. All right, Section 3, Indian polity and governance. Let's shift our focus over to the polity syllabus, where the courts and state governments are actively shaping the future of Indian law and digital rights. Imagine your digital footprint haunting you long after a court clears your name. It's a growing global issue, right? Well, the Delhi High Court has taken a major step by firmly recognizing the right to be forgotten. They've officially ruled that it's an inherent part of the fundamental right to privacy under Article 21. This essentially allows individuals who are being victimized by their digital footprints to have harmful, irrelevant information de-indexed. Now, what's really fascinating is how the court applies this in practice. For your mains analysis, notice how they beautifully balance an individual's privacy with the public's right to open justice and freedom of speech. The court favored name masking in public records, but they explicitly rejected the complete deletion of judgments, ensuring that historical and legal records stay intact while still protecting the individual's identity. It's a very clever balancing act. Also in polity, there is some significant movement on the Uniform Civil Code at the state level. The Rajasthan government's high-level committee, headed by former Supreme Court Judge Justice Ranjana Prakash Desai, is actively holding division-level public consultations. The stated goal here is to make the drafting of the UCC bill both inclusive and transparent before it's ever brought to the legislature.
Section 4, Science and the Environment. Let's zoom into a space where India is simultaneously looking decades into the technological future while also grounding itself in nature-based solutions.
The National Quantum Mission is rapidly taking shape. Backed by a massive 6,000 crore rupee investment sanctioned back in 2023, the goal is very clear: build intermediate-scale quantum computers. By harnessing the uncertainty of subatomic particles for computation, this mission aims to make India a global leader in quantum technologies by 2031. This could completely revolutionize how we optimize complex networks and model natural phenomena. But technology isn't just about quantum computers, It's also bioengineering. For your environment and disaster management prelims, you'll want to memorize these exact bamboo species, like Melacana bassifera and Bambusa bambos. Recent scientific papers highlight these specific species as highly effective, sustainable bioengineering solutions for landslide mitigation, particularly in high rainfall regions like Kerala. Their rapid growth and adaptability make them an absolutely crucial natural defense.
Finally, Section 5, Society and Education Data. We're closing our explainer today with the SECTI and Education syllabus, bringing some truly uplifting data to the table.
This is a phenomenal metric for your social justice essays. Female higher education enrollment has surged by over 42% since 2014. Mirroring a broader demographic shift, women now make up a highly impressive 44% of all STEM, that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, program enrollments. That is up from 38.4% just a decade ago. It's such a vital indicator of inclusive growth in the country. And to round things out, here is a tasteful, slightly surprising historical fact from the archives. Exactly 50 years ago today, on July 9, 1976, the Consumer Council of India basically shocked the market. Based on a survey, they declared that most multinational toothpaste sold in India were essentially just cosmetic tooth cleaners and contained absolutely no ingredients to actually prevent gum disease. It's a pretty great reminder of how much consumer awareness has evolved over the decades. Which brings us to the ultimate question for your mains preparation, wrapping up everything we've covered today. As geopolitical chaos swirls abroad, from the Strait of Hormuz to diplomatic tensions in the West, how will India continue to balance its required strategic autonomy with domestic resilience and internal growth? Think about those energy buffers, the legal innovations, and the educational milestones we discussed. Keep that question in mind as you review your notes today. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.